You're listening to Theater and College Hoops. I am Subi. Alongside me, we got Taylor Dammel. We are brought to you by Belly Up Media. Go download, subscribe, rate, and review us on whichever device it is that you use. You're a college hooper of the day. I went to the Pacific Northwest, Taylor, and I went with a Gonzaga player, a former Gonzaga player, Kyle Draginis. I don't know if folks remember the name Kyle Draginis. He was a four-year man for the Zags spanning from 2012 to 2016. No real crazy awards or accolades or anything like that, but he was a starter for the Zags. And I want to shout out No Context College Basketball on Twitter. One of the best follows if you're in the college basketball space. But yesterday he just went on a 7-tweet thread or streak, if you will, posting screenshots of starting fives in the NCAA tournament. So you know how before each game they show you the starting five from each side, and he went through like 7 different games. And I just said to myself, look, number one, I'm going to rip some of these names for this particular segment. But number two, I'm also going to shamelessly DM and email them at some point in the off season. So if you found yourself on one of No Context College Basketball's tweets, be expecting a line from me over here. Old Subi's going to reach out to you. I'm sure you can throw it into the junk or spam, but be on the lookout. Kyle Draginis, former Gonzaga man, he is your college hooper of the day. Check out the website at theaterandcollegehoops.com and make sure to follow me at CBB Theater to find out where the theat is. You should also follow Taylor at Taylor Dammel. Let's open the curtains. Taylor, what a day we had on Tuesday. Kicking off, well, not really kicking off, but because the conference tournaments and the ASUN got kicked off on Monday, but we really got into the swing of things with conference tournament action. And we're going to dive into all of that, especially in the ASUN. The ASUN, you're going to get your sunlight. You're going to get your plaudits and your attention because you treated us to 3 of the best games here in March. The only other thing I want to bring up, Taylor, before I welcome you in here, is our good friend, Eric Haslam. I'm going to be doing a lot of ripping from tweets, but Eric Haslam at Haslametrics had a great tweet that I just saw as I was squatting on the toilet before coming on here. He said, today marks the 4-month point since the start of college basketball season. It also marks exactly 1 month until the pair of Final Four games occurs in Phoenix. I said it at the beginning of the season, Taylor, but it seems like it's always a long season, but it's also compact and condensed at the same time. That's a little context for you there.
Yeah, no, I mean it's long. It seems long until about right now, and then it's lightning quick at this point. I mean, we think of the NCAA tournament as months long deal, and it's really actually not. It's only 3 weekends. That's not a lot at all. So, excited to be here into March. Excited for what we have ahead. And Sue, not only do I live in a place like Phoenix, where the Final Four is located this year, there's a lot of great weather here. But as these conference tournaments have started, you could call me Sheryl Crow.
Oh,
because I want to soak up the sun.
We're going to. We are going to.
What a day. What a day.
That was really well done. Taylor. Great song.
I mean, that was the only sun thing. There's that, Post Malone Sunflower song just didn't work.
Sunflower. Yeah, Sway Lee.
Yeah,
Look, hey, no, this is all connecting, Taylor, because I'm going to put together a list of the commercials that I'm actually really enjoying. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because the Monday after Selection Sunday, folks don't realize that when you're watching college basketball from Thursday through Sunday, you're going to get inundated with the exact same commercials over and over.
There's only like
Lynch,
4.
Over.
There's only like 4 commercials.
And over again. And so how does that relate to Sway Lee, right? No flex zone. You know that Wingstop commercial? I love that commercial where the dad's playing Jenga and his daughters take a bite into the chicken and it crunches and it is supposed to distract him. No flex zone. I mean, we're really musical today. That's Sway Lee, right? That Ray Shremmerd?
Yeah, that's Ray Shremmerd. Yeah.
Okay.
Where was I? Now the song's stuck in my head here. But no, it's going to be a the same commercial, like a Wendy's commercial.
Mm-hmm. Reggie
And
Miller's going to be
they're
in
gonna
it.
have Reggie Miller. Yeah, yep. And then there's gonna be an AT&T commercial
Mm-hmm.
as well. And then God, that's
Capital,
about it.
Capital One commercials, the
Oh yeah,
Capital
Capital
One
One.
commercials,
Yep, yep.
and then
Samuel
yep,
L. will make his yearly appearance.
road to the Final Four, man. Which is
Yeah,
weird though, because like I've seen some of the Capital One commercials and they have Jim Nance, but Iron Eagle's doing the Final Four this year, is he not? I'm
it,
pretty sure Nance is done, or is
is
this
was
Nance's last year?
I think it's Nance's last year, but I might be wrong on that.
And then don't forget the Invesco QQQ with Kim Keats. Kim Keats, Invesco QQQ comes hard
Oh yeah.
with the commercials.
Pause. So no, Jim Nance. Last year was his because it was Houston. It was in Houston last year, and obviously that's where Jim Nance went to school and all that type of stuff. So it's also where his broadcasting career started. So yeah, last year was Jim Nance. Last year, that's crazy. We've seen like essentially the entirety of Jim Nance Final Four calling career in our lifetime.
And then obviously the best part of the month bleeding into April, we got the Masters, and that's Vern Lundquist's last Masters
Mm-hmm.
call, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hello. Yeah. And then of course we always got a hello friends from old Jim there. Especially during the NCAA tournament, but especially during the Masters, it's most poignant, I would say.
Yeah. Taylor, before we soak up the sun, though, can we do a little twit time this week in Theek? Because again,
please do.
This just again it shows you how little of a life I have, I suppose, outside of college basketball. My family's growing here, though, so I assume this will change. Next year at this juncture.
Yes.
Some of my journal entries
can confirm. Yes.
Yeah. This is the 5-year journal, by the way. I want you to get an eye on it. So let's take a look at what was happening last year. And actually, Taylor, you are in this. Yeah. So a year ago today, not basketball related, but I told my former boss that I was going to be transitioning roles, and I've enjoyed my role thus far. You don't want to hear any more about that.
Big. Huge.
College hoops related. Furman and Louisiana punched their ticket to the dance on March 6th, 2023. Furman exercising some demons in the SoCon. And we know what that led to, Taylor. An amazing shot and game winner against Virginia. And for us personally, we got Furman play-by-play man Dan Scott on the program, if you recall. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Furman and Louisiana punched their ticket. And last year, Jordan Brown, who was on the Raging Cajuns, now at Memphis, has been an up and down season for him. But last year around this time, it was all good. On the flip side, Hofstra and Youngstown State, they let me down. I don't know if you remember who you took in what was then called the Colonial, but I took Hofstra. And then in the Horizon, I took Youngstown State, who I did yet again this year. So I'm hoping the Penguins come through, but they didn't last year. And then here's the line where you come in. Recorded Titch with Taylor. And you on March 6th took a Zoom COVID test for house hunters.
Oh, shit. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah. So dumb. I mean, in no means do I want to get political at all in this show, but taking a Zoom COVID test is one of the dumber things that you can do in life, especially in 2023, as we did last year. So we'll just go ahead and leave it at that.
I know you were passionate about it because it made my journal. So
well,
I had to bring it up.
Come on, like, what are you going to do via Zoom, dog? It makes no sense.
March 7th, 2023. Stayed up till 1 a.m. watching Montana State and Weber State double overtime, and it was awful basketball. That still tracks. NAU won again, and they went to the title game. So that's what happened on March 7th, 23, Taylor.
Yeah. They did not win the title game, though.
Sadly not. That was Danny Sprinkle in Montana State. So that is This Week in Theat. Let's get to what happened this week, though, here in 2024 on Tuesday. Man, the Atlantic Sun tournament, what a bunch of great games that we were treated to, okay? Jacksonville beats Eastern Kentucky, top dog Eastern Kentucky, 67-65. And then North Florida and Austin Peay go to overtime with Austin Peay getting the win. And we're going to get to the head coach, Corey Gibson, and his fatigues in a minute. North Alabama upsets our guys, Lipscomb, on the road, 77-73 by way of a game winner. That's all the high-level stuff, Taylor. I'm going to kick it to you. Just your general thoughts on those games before we go game by game.
I mean, I would say that it is notable to point out that, the Jacksonville over Eastern Kentucky game, especially because, obviously Eastern Kentucky, number 1 seed, but Jacksonville was the 10th seed, correct? Am I right in that?
Yeah, correct.
And as the 10th seed to have 5 wins and only a 7-win variance between the top seed in the conference and the 10th seed in the conference is a pretty tight window there, right? So maybe we should have seen some of these upsets coming a little bit more. But the thing I love most, just in totality, is that all 4 games were great games. Well, 3
What
were
was
great.
the Queens game?
1 was fine. 1 was.
I think Stetson took care of business.
Yeah, but still, I mean, Stetson was only up 2 at half.
Sure.
So I mean, it's not like it was a blowout. They won by 12. So just really great basketball. I'm not gonna call it high level basketball, but really great basketball from the ASUN. I mean, I'm just lucky, and we're both lucky that Eastern Kentucky lost too, because pretty much everyone in the Jerome took Lipscomb or Eastern Kentucky. So it pretty much wiped out. If everyone loses, then nobody wins, then nobody loses, I guess would be the way to put it, right? So that's what I was happy about personally. But this should be, I anticipate several more good games until we get a champion here out of the ASUN. If I hope so. I can't believe that. I hope this is a good omen for March in general as well, that our very first day of March Madness is, I think incredible is not hyperbolic in saying. I mean, we had 3 really, really good games that all came down to essentially the last bucket of the game. So, and then God, I can't even remember his name off the top of my head. But especially, North Alabama's KJ Johnson there, who used to play for Lipscomb, hitting a buzzer beater against Lipscomb to start the tournament. That is just pristine, beautiful, everything you want out of this month of March right there.
So you mentioned a little bit ago just how compact and how quick March and April comes and goes. You don't have time to settle in and get used to the March Madness feeling. You were treated to 3 great games right away, a game winner, a huge upset, and an overtime game. That's what you were treated to right out of the gate. So why don't we start, Taylor, with, and also real quick, just some of the texts and conversations around that Jacksonville Eastern Kentucky game. So I was telling my wife, I was like, oh man, we're already looking at a huge upset. She's like, the tournament started? Like, why are you watching it on ESPN Plus? I was like, no, honey. Eastern Kentucky is about to go down, the 1 seed. This could be huge. And she's like, oh, who are they playing? I'm like, the Jacksonville Dolphins. Okay. So this is huge. And the other thing, I was getting texts because of course we took Lipscomb, but I was getting texts a lot from people being like, oh, Lipscomb's on the ropes. Lipscomb's on the ropes. And they were in the first half. I think they were down by as many as 14, right? They were on the ropes. But then I looked at the scores. I was like, the 1 seed is down like 5 in the second half. Don't worry about my Lipscomb Bison just yet. Like the Colonels over there are struggling as well. So why don't we dive in, Taylor, first and foremost to North Alabama Lipscomb. I want to unpack each game just a little bit. But before we do, we have to play the shot from KJ Johnson. Just an electric, what's the word? Sequence, really. So, and last time I did this, Taylor, what happened? The last time I tried to share some video, I got some background noise and music playing. So why don't you go ahead and tell me if that's the case here? But enjoy this.
It's a 1-and-1 for Johnson. In and out, no good. Rebound comes.
So that's the thing. KJ Johnson missed a free throw to basically put the game away.
Will Pruitt gets it to McCormick on the way. Put in the book. 4.3 seconds.
This is at Lipscomb, by the way.
Yes.
Here comes North Alabama. 2 seconds. Shot's going to be good. KJ Johnson has defeated Lipscomb on the run to the bucket. KJ Johnson, who played 3 years at Lipscomb, comes down after McCormick tied it with a three-pointer, and he hit a running two.
Just unbelievable. The shot itself was crazy, like a running left-hander off balance. And then you got the amateur cameraman trying to get this footage for what I'm sure is going to be on their Twitter page. And then you got a player just like hurtling over. He looks like an offensive. Yeah, he looks like an offensive lineman after a game-winning touchdown, just uncoordinated. What a shot, though, man. That was so cool.
Johnson with the runner. Yeah, that was great. I love that you also had to go find it on a YouTube account that only has 12 subscribers.
Oh my goodness. Even we're at 17.
ASUN basketball. Let's go. No, dude. I mean, just the fact that Johnson missed the free throw to put it away. Lipscomb hits not what I would call an incredible shot, but a huge shot, to tie the game, down 3. And then Johnson, the former Lipscomb, what are their mascots? The former Bison. The former Bison there.
Former scumbag.
Yeah, he just hits it on. And that's an incredible shot. Like, that was an amazing shot. On the run, kind of one-handed, off balance, at the buzzer in his old gym. That's really what it's all about here in March. I wanted to use an analogy real quick, by the way, going back a conversation about just diving, like hitting March Madness, hitting this quick, right? I'll keep this quick. When I first got my driver's license, which was 18 years ago, which is so dumb to think about.
Disgusting.
Yeah. I never driven by myself before that, right? Or, whatever, just got a driver's license. Next morning, wake up to go to school, 8 inches of snow on the road. It's 20 below. Okay. There's no easing into driving. You're right. It was like, oh shit, we driving now. Like, we're in here now. And that's how March Madness has hit so far this year. It's like there was no driving down the driveway, maybe down a nice sunny day. Like, no, it hit real hard, real quick. And that KJ Johnson shot, I mean, that would be a for sure. Let's put it this way. If this was in the tournament, that would be a for sure shot on one shining moment.
Yep.
Undoubtedly. And so we already have one of those moments in essentially the first day of the entire month here. So pretty cool to get that memorable of a moment right off the bat.
Grab the tire change, make sure the gas is filled in the car, right? Yeah. Oil's changed.
We don't got no chain.
No chains? All right. Dang, no, I'm sorry. No. Yeah. Awesome shot, though. Unpacking this game just a little bit. Honestly, and we say this all the time, Taylor, I don't watch Lipscomb 24/7. I don't have the best beat on Lipscomb, okay? But I was confident enough in their offense for me to pick them winning this conference. And I mentioned their injury to one of their best players that was sustained in February, ACL. But I was like, you know what? Let me crunch the numbers. Let me catch a few highlights of the Bison, and this should be enough for me to take them. So I was locked into that game yesterday, more so than any Lipscomb game I've watched this year. They did not look good, honestly. Like, I was watching that game, Taylor, and I said to myself, these guys kind of stink. I don't know why I took them. Their offense kind of seemed disjointed, and maybe it was just the butterflies or the moment itself, because that's what happens when you're the favored team and the game continues to get close in March in single elimination games. You tighten up. The screws tighten as well. And so Lipscomb didn't really look at that good. They only shot 36% from 3, did Lipscomb. North Alabama shot 52%. I think that was a huge, huge differentiator and key component of why North Alabama won. Also, I can never get right if it's Northern Alabama or North Alabama. Same thing with the Osprey. Is it North Florida? Is it Northern Florida? But a 14-point lead was just too much to overcome for Lipscomb, because like, you look at the second half, they stormed back and they won that half by 5, but certainly not enough. And then just last but not least, North Alabama, their uniform design is so bad. I don't know if you saw their uniforms, but it was incorporating both the N and the A, and it was one of the worst combinations I've ever seen. But who the hell am I? They're a couple wins away from going to the dance.
2 wins away from seeing those jerseys all day in the tournament. I'd love to. Who knows? I'll take any of the jerseys at this point. Unfortunately, your boys in Kennesaw had lost previous night. So they couldn't be here to support. But no, this stat is one that caught me, in looking at this game, or in watching this game as well. Yesterday's North Alabama, Lipscomb only turned the ball over 7 times during the whole game, and yet still loses North Alabama to the Lions. That's the Bisons versus the Lions. That's a biblical matchup right there. Oh,
Yeah.
No, to lose when you only have 7 turnovers at home is brutal.
You didn't shoot well. Didn't shoot well enough, and that's what I was
Make or
basing my
miss
whole
league.
pick on.
Make
That's
or miss
right.
league. Yep.
Some could say make or miss sport. The other game, Jacksonville, Eastern Kentucky, probably the biggest upset, certainly by seeding, like you had mentioned. Thoughts on the Dolphins taking down the Colonels in our first upset of March?
How about the Dolphins? 5-11 on the year, right? Going on the road on Monday night to Kennesaw State,
I didn't
beating
know that.
Kennesaw, and then going on the road the very next night in Kentucky, swimming their way, leaping their way up to Kentucky, and beating Eastern Kentucky. Two wins. They only had 5 wins in conference this year, and now they have 7, I guess technically, but 2 in the last 2 days. Both on the road in back-to-back nights. I guess maybe this team just needs they need something to play for. The pressure makes diamonds, right? So, but they're they also, funny enough, only had 7 turnovers. Didn't shoot the ball very well either. This was a much very low scoring game, or not a very low scoring game, but a pretty low scoring game. But they were led by Bryce Workman there, who scored 25. That was pretty much the key to this game, is they had a guy who could go get it for them.
We're all Fins now. Fins fans. Fins up, baby. I'm not the biggest Tua fan. I'm not the biggest Tyreek fan. I don't mind Mike McDaniel, but the point I'm making is that this is the Dolphins team that I can get behind in the postseason. Truth be told, Taylor, I have no idea how Jacksonville won. I have no clue. Watching that game and breaking down some of the numbers and analyzing the game. All right. There were 7 combined threes between these two teams. It was not a shooting display in Richmond, Kentucky the other night. 7 combined threes. It was ugly, but you know what? Jacksonville had just one more. So you say to yourself, that 4-3 as opposed to only 3 for Eastern Kentucky, that's the difference right there, right? What was the final score? They won by 2, or they won by 2, right? So you say that's the difference right there. Not so fast, my friends. Dive in a little deeper. All right, the free throw line is where the difference was. And you mentioned Bryce Workman for sure, who also had 12 boards, which was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Huge. They made one more 3. Fine. I'm looking at the free throw line, though, Taylor. Jacksonville went 19 of 21, whereas Eastern Kentucky went 10 of 17. All right, for a free throw delta of what, 5 there? 19 of 21, man. You shoot 90% from the line in crunch time, and every single free throw Jacksonville attempts from here on out is a critical, crucial free throw, because they lose, they're out. They're done. Their season's over. But you go 19 of 21, I can't help but be incredibly impressed there. Everything else, though, was pretty similar. The teams were pretty even. I guess you saw that in the scoreline, but that free throw disparity in terms of percentage and nine additional makes is huge. You mentioned Bryce Workman. Yes, 25 and 12. Don't forget Robert McCray off the bench. He had 24.
The 5th.
Robert McCray the 5th. Thank you. Not to be confused with the 4th, 3rd, 2nd, or 1st. All right. He was awesome as well. And so now I think you just say, what the hell do we have to lose? And I think we're all on Jacksonville. And you mentioned, Taylor, it's so many times we say it's about getting hot at the right time. I don't know if you can get hotter winning 2 games in 2 days after only having won 5 in conference, right? They don't have 5 total, but 5 in conference.
Right. Well, look at Workman there. Back-to-back double-doubles in back-to-back nights. I mean, he averaged 12 and 9 on the year, so I mean, it's right within his range. But his double-doubles in the last 2 nights have been, like you said, 25 and 12, not 12 and 10 or something like that. So great game from him. a performance that was, needed at the right time. But this game was, this game never had a double digit. Neither team had a double digit lead at any point. The largest lead that any team had was Jacksonville's by 8 with in the third minute of the game. And then from there, that was the largest lead the entire game. So was quite the game. What you would definitely describe as a back and forth affair. There probably were 20 lead changes in this game, just looking at the score chart here. And that's the excitement we're looking for. So I'm fins up. Wish I would have taken literally, of course, any other team other than the two I considered here. But that's just how it goes at the Jerome sometimes.
Stetson backers are having a huge Grinch smile right now for sure.
That's just classic. Stetson would have been my other pick.
Anyway.
That's worth saying, or that's worth anything.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not. I guess it's not. But the Hatters, they're in prime position. I don't think they've ever made the tournament. So if you're not going to do it this year, I don't know when the next time is.
It's Finn season. It's
Finn season. You're right. Let's not forget, though, the last game in the ASUN, North Florida, Austin Peay. We go to Clarksville, Tennessee. And who stole the show but Corey Gibson, the head coach of Austin Peay. We got to play this. Just look at him. Look at him in the fatigues, Taylor. On the scoreboard, or excuse me, the stands, excuse me. And then look at this at the end. All right, so he's got a bunch of fist pumps. Mascot's going crazy. And then look at this at the end. Give me a hug, random fan.
Dude, I love the random guy on the court. That's wonderful. Just like a regular dad looking guy. No, just jeans and a quarter zip and a hat. Beautiful.
Funny enough, that fan looked more of a coach, I would say, in terms of his outfit than Corey Gibson did. Do we know the
Okay, I was gonna say
inspiration?
excuse my maybe missing this, but why the fatigues and army boots? Is it just because we're going to battle here?
Yeah, I guess.
I don't think after Kellen Winslow said war 20 years ago in an interview, I don't think we're allowed to describe playing college basketball as going to war. I believe that was Kellen Winslow in a
well, not to mince words, but he said, "I'm an effing soldier."
Oh, maybe that's what it was. And I thought he followed that up with them going to war. Whatever.
Might have said that.
Yeah,
the soldier part lost people.
Yeah, that's true, especially in 2002. But anyway, or whatever that was. But it's got to be that same mentality, I guess, the same concept of, because I don't think anyone that I know that's in the military describes any of that as comfort wear by any means. So it's got to be a going to war deal here. But he was fired up. Maybe I might add, maybe a little more fired up than necessary for the first round of the
No. That's what I was just gonna say, Taylor. If this doesn't show you what March is about, I don't know what else is. Because you're right about the circumstances, and it elicited that reaction.
I will say they were down the entire second half until pretty much. Did they hit a buzzer? Did they hit a buzzer beater to tie? Is that what it was? They made a buzzer beater to tie to send it to overtime, and then so they were down the entire second half, and so yeah, okay, maybe I'll walk that back a little bit and say, all right,
please,
just because of circumstances. But they were also the favorite at home, so
every single one of these is an elimination game for these guys, man.
True.
If Brad Underwood's doing that in the Big Ten tournament, it's Brad. You don't have to win a game in the Big Ten tournament. You're going to.
You're a 3 seed instead now. Yeah, right. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. I should have reframed my viewpoint there. That's true. This is every game's an elimination game. So I'll take that back. That obviously I only saw his upper half get on the table because his lower half was camouflaged. So I guess maybe that's why I was confused at what was going on.
I did my best to research the inspiration for the fatigues, and I'm sure we will get a report on that if reporters are doing their job. That's the first thing they'll ask Corey Gibson, why the fatigues, and hopefully he comes out with them yet again. But as for the game itself, Austin Peay did a great job, Taylor, of turning over the Ospreys, because Austin Peay didn't shoot very well. from deep. Another mid-major team that we saw not shooting very well, but they turned over North Florida quite a bit. Didn't shoot from deep very well, but they dominated the paint, did Austin Peay. They outscored North Florida by 18 down there. And that, I think, was the difference of the game and what pushed them over the top. Absolutely dominated the paint. Going to the turnover point that I made, Ospreys had 10 total turnovers. I forget who you said. I think it was Lipscomb that only had 7, still lost. Austin Peay only had 3. That's how you perform and take care of the rock at home in a single elimination game. That's your ball game right there. North Florida with 10, Austin Peay to 3. And there were just a lot of buckets in this game, Taylor. You look at the score, and a lot of people are going to say, well, it went to overtime. Folks, that's only 5 additional minutes. All right. There were buckets had in this game. North Florida had 5 guys in double figures. Austin Peay had 4 guys in double figures, 9 guys on the court, or for both teams, in double figures. And DeMarcus Sharp for Austin Peay, he had 35 and 9 off the bench. And I may have to retract something. I think I said in the Lipscomb, or excuse me, the Jacksonville EKU game, I think I said Robert McRae had 24 off the bench. I think I meant to say DeMarcus Sharp here in this Austin Peay game had 35 and 9 off the bench. That is a tremendous performance.
Well, I mean, I'm wondering what roles the starters play on Austin Peay. Because in scoring those 35 points, he also played 41 of the 45 possible minutes. And it's, of course, we have to mention who's this guy? Des White, who played 27 minutes and scored 0 points. So incredible stat line there. Then, of course, you have one of the other starters in Cy Witt, who only played 19 minutes as a starter and scored 16 points, but he only played 19 minutes. And you might think, well, Taylor, have you heard of foul trouble before? Well, they combined for 4 fouls, those 2 starters. Okay. So that had nothing, not a goddamn thing to do with it. So haven't studied the Austin Peay rotation too much, but certainly something to look out for here, especially if they make the tournament. Something that this is an inside track into picking a 16-over-1 type of matchup is, hey, watch out for the bench points from Austin Peay here.
DeMarcus Manu Ginobili Sharp. That's what we just got to call him. And good juju for Austin Peay, because a couple episodes ago I had Trenton Hassel as our college hooper of the day. Great Clarksville resident, great Austin Peay alum. ASUN, man, thank you so much for a tremendous Tuesday. I cannot wait to see how this tournament continues to play out. But yeah, fins up, baby. All right, Taylor, let's get to the big guys. Wake Forest, man. I posit to you, what do you think it's like being a Demon Deacon fan?
Worthless. I mean, what is that? In this time,
what is that?
In this day, on March, when that game was March 5th, right? You cannot lose at home to one of the 2 or 3 worst teams in the conference. Well, I get Georgia Tech's not. Georgia Tech is one of the weirdest resumes. I say resumes if they're going to make the tournament, but they're certainly not making the tournament. But they have 4. They're 4-1 against quad 1 like A teams. Like, that's better than pretty much everybody else in the country, and yet they haven't beat a quad 2 team. Which is wild, right? So they're winless against quad 2 teams, but they're 4-1 against essentially the top 20 teams in the country, give or take. So, but no, if you're Wake, your life is in your own hands, and you just kind of let it go like that. I will say there is some legitimate beef if I was a Wake Forest fan, though. The non-travel call before the winning bucket was awful, like real bad. And it's something that I've complained on this program about a lot. And I've certainly complained to my friends a lot. And that is, it seems like I remember back in my day when I was learning college basketball or basketball in general, if you went to the ground with the ball and skidded across the floor, even like an inch, that was a travel, right? Nowadays you can just take the ball and slide down a slip and slide as far as you want, essentially across the floor, and they'll still give you a timeout or won't call travel. And I don't really understand why this is allowed now. If you watch it across all of basketball, It's something that happens every single game a couple times. But you cannot let what happened last night with Georgia Tech happen in a high major basketball game. I don't remember the player, but he went to the ground with the ball, skidding like towards the sidelines. And he skidded what, 6 feet? Like, I mean, I don't think that's an exaggeration, but he skidded
He went pretty far.
a long way, and they still gave him the timeout. And was it a jump ball?
I forget what was
But
the
they
result.
retained
They
possession
retained
regardless.
Possession. It might have been a jump.
Regardless.
Yeah.
They retained possession one way or another regardless. And if it was a jump, that even makes it worse, because that means the ref can't even go back and be like, well, he actually called the timeout during the skid. It's like, no, he skidded, and then they called the jump ball. So awful call. So I'd be pissed if I was a Wake fan. But the shot that was made by give me his name in
blanking.
in
Let me
ND.
look it up.
Yeah, there's like, we need some more vowels in it type of name. The shot he hit to win this game was wild. Kind of just threw it up in the air with 0.3 seconds left. Damon was jacked up, headed to the locker room. Go ahead.
Bai and Dongo.
And Dongo, that's what it was. Incredible shot to win this game. And really, I feel good about Georgia Tech's future. A lot about what they've done this year. They've shown that, like we said, they've beat a lot. They've beat all of the best teams that they've played this year, right? They've beat North Carolina. They've beat Duke. And the fact that with nothing to play for, playing against a team with everything to play for at this point, to go on the road and beat them is a sign of great things to come, if you ask me. Now, if you're Wake, it's the opposite. Oh no, like you can't lose to a team that has nothing to play for on March 5th when you are a bubble team at home. Just inexcusable.
They're in some shit. They're in deep doo-doo right now. They are not in the field, Taylor, as if Selection Sunday were tomorrow. Okay. So I agree with every point you made about Georgia Tech. I agree it was a very bad missed call on that, but that is not what is determining Wake Forest's future. All right. That's not what is determining their tournament chances. What is determining it is the fact that they've gone 0-3 since that Duke win. All right, in Winston-Salem. What's determining it is potentially scheduling like crap. Or what else is determining it is not being able to win away from Winston-Salem. And then when you have a bad team coming to your house where you haven't lost all year, and then you lose, like you mentioned the date, that's also determining it. All right. You can't get down by 17 points in the first half and not expect it to be a close game down the stretch where some bang plays are missed. And I'm not saying it was bang. It was very clearly a travel, but I'd be pissed if I were a Wake fan. Luckily, I'm not. And so that is the reason why I don't have any sympathy for them. All of those reasons I just mentioned, I have zero sympathy for Wake. They were horrible from 3. They didn't share the ball at all. I think they only finished with 8 assists on the night. They got out-rebounded, Taylor. Like, how are you going to get out-rebounded in a must-win game at home? It cannot happen. They did a good job of turning Georgia Tech over, but they didn't convert on those points. I think Georgia Tech turned the ball over 16 times, and Wake Forest maybe scored on half of those. At this juncture, Taylor, you pretty much have to play flawless basketball. If you're Wake Forest, you have no room for error. So you do a great job turning the ball over. Go make it into a basket. All right. You can't get out rebounded. You mentioned Georgia Tech and how well they're playing against Q1 opponents. Totally fine. But I threw this out there in a tweet because I've been on the ACC, specifically Wake Forest, because of all the belly aching we hear from their fans about their position in the field. And it's not in the field anymore. But I threw out a tweet. I was like, when they were down 17 or whatever it was, I was like, so whose fault is this? Is this Lunardi's fault still? Is it the fact that the ACC is not getting any respect? Or should we be saying that if Wake was in the Mountain West, they'd win the Mountain West easily? Like, what talking point am I missing? And someone came into my mention saying, well, you forgot to mention that Georgia Tech is playing super well, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to hear it, man. Like, I understand Notre Dame and Georgia Tech are playing pretty well this time of year, and they're rounding into form. They're not good teams on the whole. All right. They might be hot. You have to be better. You have to be. All right. Like if Kansas gets clipped by an up and coming team that's playing well with nothing to play for, fine. But you're Wake Forest. Like this cannot be an excuse. It cannot be Notre Dame's actually been playing well of late. They just got blitzed, destroyed by Carolina, a shoe-in tournament team who doesn't have to whine and complain and campaign about their spot in the tournament. All right. I don't want to hear about how well these guys are playing if you're supposed to be a tournament team, because those two, Georgia Tech and Notre Dame, are not. And you lost to both of them. All right. I'm also a big believer, Taylor, in basketball karma. All right. What does basketball karma mean? It means talking trash when you have no business really to talk trash. We saw it in the NBA Finals. All right. And it's not just for teams that I dislike. It's for my favorite teams and some of my favorite players. I saw Grant Williams against the Cavs during the regular season tell Donovan Mitchell he was going to hit both of them free throws. And he missed both of them. And the Cavs ended up winning. I saw the same Grant Williams talk trash to Jimmy Butler in the Garden, game 2, I think it was, when you're down as a favorite, talking trash. They ended up losing that game, eventually lost the series. That's all basketball karma. So when Wake fans who are on very thin ice are talking about and making fun of Kyle Filipowski's injury, other fans can do it because it turned out he's fine. And other like UConn fans, they're piling on Duke, and other fans are saying, "Oh, Filipowski, blah blah blah." Wake fans, dude, like basketball karma would say, take the win, get the hell out of there, and focus on the future. They were not focused or locked in on Notre Dame or Georgia Tech. What they were focused on were people coming for their precious court storms. What they were focused on was Kyle Filipowski faking an injury, apparently, and not being allowed to at least feel any sort of pain. And this is where you are. You showed your ass. Duke is surging, and you are on the outside looking in. Basketball karma is a real thing. And my last point, I can't stand, Taylor, cannot stand when teams mess around when the pressure is on late. All they said was, we got Duke. We beat Duke, so we're in the clear. We just can't puke on ourselves. You're puking on yourselves right now, and we're seeing it.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, because they definitely won that Duke game. Thought, oh, we're fine. No problem now. And now they're even further out now than they were an hour before that Duke game, I would guess at this point. So, and then, just going back to the ACC versus Mountain West deal here, you can't tell me that when this version of Virginia is the third best team in your conference, that you're better than anybody else. Virginia's still a good team, but you can't tell me a team that just scores 43 points a game for 9 consecutive games is the third best team in the conference. You're better than anybody else. And Sue might be foreshadowing a future discussion we're having on this program, but I certainly would take the 7th best team in the Mountain West to beat the 7th best team in the ACC in Wake Forest right now, today, as we speak.
I would too. That's a beautiful transition. And it should be noted, my gripe isn't that the ACC is bad. They're not bad. All right. But when you say the Mountain West, okay, fine. You can say that. That's fine. But when you say that the Mountain West does not have a seat at the table, they cannot sit next to you when you sit down at a wedding and you see the seating arrangements and there's ACC and the ACC scoffs and is disgusted that the Mountain West is next to them, and they're just wondering why they even got invited to this nice wedding. That's when I have an issue, because you are absolutely comparable. That's been my position the whole time. So I have zero sympathy for Wake, and I want to talk about teams, Taylor, like UNLV potentially punching their ticket. I don't think that they're going to get an at-large bid. I do think it's going to take them winning the Mountain West, but let's have a little fun. It's theater in college hoops, damn it. All right. It's not net in college hoops, strength of schedule in college hoops, BPI quadrants in college hoops. It's theater. And UNLV is the hottest team in the Mountain West.
Country, maybe.
Potential.
I mean, right. UNLV with a huge win against San Diego State toasted my bet that I had with San Diego State, which was fine because UNLV is just playing unbelievable basketball right now. They've won, what is it, 11 of their last 12 games? Something to that. 10 of 11. That is nuts. That literally is like the hottest team in the country right now. The fact that they can't, that tells you how bad they were. The fact that they can't get an at-large bid, having won 10 of their last 11 games
So
in like
true.
the third best conference in America at this point, is fourth best conference in America, is wild. But that being said, let's talk about them real quick. They have absolutely battened down defensively in the last 2 months. That is their real key here. And they've gotten great point guard play as well. That is the other key. The two keys to their success are the fact that they are playing incredible defense and that D-Dan Thomas Jr. is looking like one of the best point guards, not just in the conference, but in the country. Now, if you're an East Coast person, you stayed up till 4 a.m. last night. You would have watched Inside College Basketball with several friends of the program talking about UNLV and kind of, I mean, waxing poetically, if I may, about them. Rothstein is fired up about UNLV. I think he was even saying he might pick them to win the conference tournament, which at this point they're far and away the hottest team in the conference. And I know we talked about this on our last episode, but if you look at the standings in the conference now, Colorado State who was for the majority of the season, at least the first half of the season, considered to be one of the best teams in the country, and certainly the best team in the Mountain West at the time. They're in 7th place right now.
Mhm.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, they're in 7th place right now. They were at one time ranked 13th in the country. So it goes to show you that, UNLV winning all these games has not even been against just the nobodies of the conference. They beat literally everybody essentially in that stretch. I really couldn't be more impressed with them at this point. I think college basketball in the West is certainly better when UNLV is good. They have been just completely irrelevant for at least 10 years now at this point. And I'm not saying that winning 10 games in 1 year, in a stretch in 1 year, makes you relevant again, but I think that it's got a little more name cachet than if Utah State was running this off, if Nevada was running this off, if Wyoming was running it off. UNLV doing this, making some noise, and if they can make some noise in the Mountain West tournament, yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're going to get an at-large bid, but I mean, right now they're only half a game back of first place in the conference. So I don't know. The math on this doesn't math for me when I know if you look at the rankings and stuff like that. But what if UNLV wins the Mountain West?
Like
And
regular
you're not
season?
like regular season, and then you don't give them a path to the tournament without winning the tournament? That would be kind of, I don't know if it's precedented or I guess, but we want to consider them to be a major conference, right? But I can't remember the last time. Actually, I can remember the last time when Washington won the Pac-12 about 7 or 8 years ago. They were not necessarily projected to be a tournament team. That's about the last time I can remember. Yeah, that's about the last time I can think that this type of situation happened.
That's a great point. I think your description on UNLV just now was brilliant, Taylor, honestly. And if UNLV, I don't want UNLV to win the regular season conference tournament, because then ACC folks are going to say, well, how good can the Mountain West be if UNLV won the this conference? And here's what's holding them back, Taylor. This is why I in my eyes, I don't think that they are going to get an at-large bid. All right, here's what's holding them back. They have 3 Q4 losses. They've lost to Air Force, they've lost to Loyola Marymount, and they lost to your boys Southern. They're not that great in Q2 either. They're 1-4 in Q2 opportunities. So that's an ugly, it's really the Q4 losses that are torpedoing their season and are weighing them down like an anchor. But at least what I can tip my hat to is that they understand the moment, they understand what they're playing for, and they're turning it on at the exact right time. Like now, if you're Kevin Kruger, you say to yourself, yeah, we started off terribly, but at least I know my guys are finishing strong. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. It is a little bit how you start for them, but they're finishing incredibly well, and that's all you can really ask for. Them and St. Mary's, I think, are the only 2 teams that have maybe put together this winning percentage over the course of 11, 12 games, right? You mentioned their defense. Wow. SDSU is prone to some poor shooting nights, but UNLV locked up, only allowed 28% shooting for SDSU, 10 blocks. That's how you protect your rim. That's how you protect your hoop. 10 blocks for the Rebs. And SDSU never led, man. I think that was most impressive. It's that UNLV won this game in a wire-to-wire fashion. Mentioned Deon Thomas Jr., silky smooth snatchback, step back to win the game. That was amazing. I would just say in a fantasy land, again, I know that they're probably not going to get an at-large, but I'd rather have a conversation about them. It's just more fun. And you talked about the name cachet, but it's just more fun to have a conversation about them as opposed to Colorado, who's been lukewarm all season. And I was the biggest Colorado opponent for a while. Or Utah, who's been lukewarm all season. Or Wake, who we just talked about. Or Pitt, who we just talked about. Maybe even Virginia. All right, Virginia's in, fine. But then another team like TCU, who didn't schedule diddly out of conference. Right, I just rather would have a conversation about UNLV getting in as opposed to those tepid bubble teams. That's just me.
I mean, look at all of the bubble teams right now. UNLV would beat 8 of the 12 bubble teams right now, I think.
You think so?
I mean, they're better than Wake is right now. That I'm 100% sure of that. They're better than Virginia. They're probably better than New Mexico at this point in their own conference, and might have an opportunity to see that happen. They're better than St. John's. They're better than.
I don't know if they're better than St. John's. I like St. John's.
Sure, but I mean, 10 of their last 11 games is tough to turn down against. I think they may be better than Memphis too. I don't know. There's just you can make an argument for almost any of these teams. I would say that they're not better than, say, Florida Atlantic or maybe Villanova. Maybe Villanova has a good one that tips off right here while we're recording here against Seton Hall tonight, so maybe they can prove us a little wrong. I know that's a point of discussion, obviously, on last episode, but no, I mean, I'm very impressed with UNLV. The tough part about, and this is more, doesn't have to do with UNLV. It has more so to do with how you want your bracket to look if you are a guy who wants to pick the tournament, right? In the sense that, do you pick the teams who are hot right now or the teams that have shown 4 months of resume? Because 4 months of resume, sure. Then maybe that's why you have a discussion about a Virginia or a Colorado State or whoever. But if you were just taking the hottest team in the country, there'd be no chance that UNLV wouldn't be in the tournament, right? And not hot as in they won 4 games in a row. I mean, this has been happening since the year flipped over. We've got 2 months of resume to look at here. So, I mean, I think you're right. I don't think they're going to get an at-large bid, but I think if they beat like a Nevada, they play Nevada to end the season. But if they beat like a Colorado State and a New Mexico in the Mountain West tournament, it'd be really hard to sit here, in my opinion, and be like, well, they're not as good as some of the other bubble teams when they just not even just beat both those teams, but have beat those teams twice or maybe even 3 times potentially since the start of the year. So that would be really tough as a UNLV fan, is if you didn't make the tournament, but you beat some of the bubble teams ahead of you 2, maybe 3 times consecutively this season.
Yeah, I hear you totally. I just think those Q4 losses and even
I know. Yeah.
It's like a stinky smell on them right now that they're doing their best to shake. And I will say, like, you have to take into account a whole body of work, but UNLV, I would love to see them in the dance, and they're peaking just at the right time. All right, Taylor, real quick before we get to segments, I'm going to run through very quickly some additional Jerome predictions and picks that we have. We'll start because these tournaments are kicking off this week as well. So we'll start with the NEC, the Northeast. I took Merrimack, Joey Gallo, hoping he can figure it out and get his team to the dance. And then from there, in the OVC, who did I take? In the OVC, I took Morehead State in the OVC. All right. That's a pretty tried and true pick. I feel like I've taken them almost every year.
Yeah.
In this conference. And then in the Big South, this is going to be a fun one. I got High Point dethroning UNC Asheville. I'm sorry, Drew Pember. It is someone else's time. And I went with High Point. So out of those 3, I'll let you navigate how you want. NEC, OVC, Big South, wherever you want to start. Who you got?
High Point's coach just won Coach of the Year, right, in his first year as a coach there.
Alan Huss.
Huss, right? Yeah. Huss, local brewery here in Phoenix as well, Huss Brewing. Let me plug them real quick. But no, for our first two picks, I also have Merrimack and Morehead State. Merrimack, the 2 seed, seemed to be the most popular pick in our Jerome pool, just simply because I think they, there's value in taking the 2, right? And they also won the conference last year too, regular season, but didn't make it to the tournament. So I think that they definitely have some unfinished business there. Also took Morehead State as well. But in the Big South, I took UNC Asheville. I still think they run the conference, and I'm ready for them to run it back and do it all over again here this time around.
Going to be a lot of fun. All right, Taylor, let's move on now to some segments. Damel Dimes. TD, we're taking on some water, man. We're taking on some water. We are sub 500 for the first time in a long time, sitting at 28, 29, and 3 last time out. You took North Carolina minus 15 against Notre Dame. That hit very easily. Then you took Bama plus 2 on the road at Florida. Florida handled business. And then, of course, we waxed poetically about UNLV beating San Diego State. You took SDSU minus 1. Let's go ahead and get back on the horse. I trust you. I trust you.
So I just want to point out that ever since you said I was playing for seeding and not to make the tournament, I have just fallen off a cliff. I'm Wake Forest. I'm Wake Forest right now, essentially.
Shit.
Yeah, exactly. But the I actually don't mind losing that San Diego State game in the sense that like it proved to me how good UNLV was, and then also same thing with Alabama and Florida. I have said before that Florida is one of the teams that, quite frankly, I know the least about that is playing really, really good basketball right now. And so that was a good kick in the pants, let's call it, too, to say like, all right, Taylor, you might be in love with flashy Alabama, but nose to the grindstone, Florida can score some points too, which they put up over 100 against Alabama. And maybe Alabama's not as good as I had previously thought that they were. They had a really good run, but I'm not sure. It feels like they're getting tired for some reason, Alabama. I don't know if that's accurate or if you have that same sentiment, but it feels like they just can't. They're just not as efficient and they can't put it all a complete game together like they did for about a 6-week span there in February, especially. So we got to get back on the horse. We have to be able to make some money here before the end of the season. So let's start with one of your boys, one of your favorite teams in the country, still the luckiest team in the country, Tarleton State, 6-point favorites against Utah Valley tonight. Actually, it's not that late of a tip time for considering where these guys play, but Tarleton State's a good basketball team. Utah State is under 500 for the year, or Utah Valley, excuse me. And Tarleton by 6 to me is a pretty safe play, especially considering their luck factor this year. There's some bit just basing the whole thing off the luck factor. So we're going to go Tarleton by 6. We're going to go to the Apple Cup because this is a Wazoo podcast. And I think that our boys there in the Palouse send Mike Hopkins off into the sunset with a nice loss. And they are Washington State is 6-point favorites against UW as well. UW just not good. Like they're just not a good basketball team. And Wazoo is. And so we could go deeper into the numbers, but that's just how I feel about this, right? So Wazoo by 6 over UW. Love a good rivalry game. And that's at Washington State, importantly, in this. And I think I've gone an entire year without picking this team, but I think this is the time to do it. So I'm picking the Arizona Wildcats to end the rivalry at awful Pauley Pavilion and blow out UCLA. This is a completely homer pick, so I'm fine with saying that as well. Arizona is a 9-point favorite on the road against against UCLA. UCLA has had a very turbulent and up and down season. We know that these games are always rock fights. We know that Arizona doesn't generally play well at Pauley Pavilion. But I think there's got to be a little bit of specialness to this and saying this is the last time that they're going to play as conference opponents in one of their home arenas, right? And I think that Arizona is just so talented and hitting. I think they're about to hit they're hitting their stride right now. Caleb Love is playing as well as anybody in the country. And I think him, especially on the road, against your main rival in the last game they'll ever play as a conference opponent. I think Arizona wins by 9. So Arizona by 9, Wazoo by 6, and Tarleton by 6.
Washington State has kind of looked shaky the last couple games. They've ended up with wins, and I think that's actually the mark of a strong, tough team,
Yeah.
which is what we've talked about. So I wouldn't be surprised if we got a get-right game at home rivalry. And then you mentioned Caleb Love for sure. Umar Ballo. Why am I not hearing his name as one of the best bigs in the country over the last 2 months? All he's doing is stringing together 9 straight double-doubles, potentially 10 straight. He's been an absolute beast. I don't know if there's a big man playing better than Umar Ballo right now.
Yep. And maybe because everyone listened to our podcast preseason, which I assume would happen when I said Umar Ballo wasn't going to play like the Pac-12 player of the year. And for the first 2 months, he played well, but not like incredibly by any means. But after he's maybe fully gotten, there was a little talk and maybe he was out of shape the first month of the season. He's certainly shape now. That's for sure. He's in shape and playing the best basketball of his career. And I would really love it if he could play his best basketball for about 10 more games.
A few more games. That's all we need.
10 more games. Yeah. Maybe 11. Maybe 11, 10, 11 more games.
Let's go ahead. Move on now, Taylor, to not so mid. Who are you giving this award to today?
Well, we're going to celebrate the end of an era, I guess. And that's that the IUPUI Jaguars have played their last game as IUPUI. There will no longer be Indiana University at Purdue or whatever the hell it is. It's Indiana University at Purdue University, Indianapolis, right?
Indianapolis,
yeah. So now they're just changing the name to Indiana University to Indianapolis. So it's just an UI without.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So they're not changing the mascot. Still going to be the Jaguars. So the schools are now splitting. It's going to be Indiana University at Indianapolis and like Purdue at Indianapolis or whatever. But yeah, no more IUPUI, man. And that's kind of the end of an era in college basketball right there.
Yeah. Well, that was one of those inside jokes like only college basketball guys get when you see them. Like IUPUI, wow. And everyone always tries to like say what the acronym stands for. Actually, IUPUI, I think they just got rid of their coach.
They also just fired their coach. They just fired their coach today as well.
Matt Crenshaw. Complete and total revamp there for IUPUI. My not so mid, I'm going to take us to the Northeast, Taylor. We're going to go all the way up to Maine. Maine Black Bears, baby. They defeat UMass Lowell, who, by the way, UMass Lowell has been kind of disappointing this year. I thought they were going to challenge Vermont for the America East title, regular season crown, or at least be super competitive with them. They haven't really been. UMass Lowell has been limping the last couple games, and they haven't looked that great. Like it seems as if they haven't taken a step up. But this is about Maine. All right. Awesome performance from the Black Bears in the paint. Both teams didn't shoot very well, but I want to highlight for Maine, Peter Filipovidi from Hungary. He had 27 in a huge win over UMass Lowell. This is now their second straight loss for UMass Lowell after losing to Vermont, which, again, I'm not blaming them necessarily. I just thought they'd compete a little bit. They'd take a step up because they've been knocking on the door the last couple of years, but it seems as if they stopped knocking. They're still there. They're on the doormat, but it seems as if they have lost some energy in knocking. But this is about Maine. Awesome performance. Awesome win for the Black Bears. Lane violation, Taylor. What got you riled up?
So my lane violation is 4 teams specifically that we got to call out here at this stage of the year. There are 4 teams in college basketball that, without their last game coming up over the next 4 days, will go winless in conference play this year. Okay. Pacific, already done. They're already winless. That season's over, right? DePaul, right down the street from you. They play at St. John's. Can't see them winning that game. Cal Poly, they play Irvine and San Diego, who are the 2 best teams in their conference. But then one team specifically I want to point out that's about to go winless in conference unless they win at LSU this weekend. That's Arkansas? Missouri.
Oh, Missouri. Excuse me.
which they'll become only the second SEC team since World War II to go winless in conference play. I don't see them beating LSU this weekend. So let me put it to you this way. So Mississippi Valley and Detroit both have conference wins this year, and they only have 2 wins combined between those 2 teams. So those 4 teams I just listed are going to do something that neither Mississippi Valley or Detroit Mercy did this season, and that's win a conference basketball game. So that's my lane violation. It's like, come on. I know that you have up and down years, but winless in conference, or especially Missouri, like, we're not talking about Kim English is former Missouri Star, right? Yeah. He's probably sick about his alma mater there. Just got undefeated in major conference plays. I mean, DePaul is like, we joked about earlier this year in the not so mid, they're like, okay, they're
got rid of their coach.
They're like not a major program, even though they're in a major conference. Missouri's like legit. So in terms of like their athletics department. So for them to go undefeated in the winless in the SEC is just pathetic.
Yeah, quite the opposite of undefeated, actually. They are very, very disappointing this season. It's been a rough go of it for Dennis Gates this year. Had a great first season. We'll see. I think year 3 is going to be very interesting, right? You have about as well as you could have performed in it for a first-year head coach, about as bad as you could have performed for a second-year head coach. What does the third year bring for us? That's a great call out. My lane violation, Taylor, you thought we were only going to focus on the ASUN. I'm going to take us to the Sun Belt because we had a great finish in the Sun Belt as well between Old Dominion and Texas State. All right. But the lane violation here, and I'm going to play the video. The lane violation is that the TV clock, so the clock that you see on the score bug, was not in sync with the actual clock in the arena. And so what happened was an Old Dominion player who had the wherewithal, like he's obviously not looking at the clock on the TV or the score bug. He shoots a half court shot because the clock is genuinely winding down and we're about to hit the buzzer, and he hits it. All right. Leaving us, as the buzzer sounds, leaving us absolutely perplexed as to why the hell this guy shot a half court shot with 5 seconds left. It was like he accidentally hit the wrong button on his controller. And so we're like, why did he shoot that shot? But at the same time, he hit it and they won the game. That's awesome. So there's so much confusion. The lane violation, though, Taylor, is it's incompatible. And so here's what it looked like actually between Old Dominion there and Texas State.
Don't give the defense a chance to get set.
Shot off the glass, and the rebound is controlled by the Monarchs. Here comes Jenkins down the floor.
Oh, he made it. There will be time put on the clock, I believe, though. He shot it with about 6 seconds.
Unbelievable. These announcers don't even know what the hell's going on.
Okay, well, hold on. Were the announcers not in the arena? You could clearly hear the buzzer going off in the back.
But maybe they were looking at their TV monitor.
Well, I know, but like, just look,
on the game.
turn to the left or the right.
What
Look at the.
Was not that. It's not. If that's the clock, he didn't get it off in time. That ball is not out of his hands.
Yeah, it really wasn't even that close.
There it is,
either.
zeros, and it's still in his hands.
So that was the other added layer of this, is that he hit the shot and you're saying, oh, it didn't. Like, there's so many things going on because you hear the buzzer. It's like, did he get it out of his hands? But the clock on the score bug saying there's 4 seconds left. Very chaotic, very confusing. That was my lane violation. And poor Old Dominion, they ended up losing by like 9 in overtime.
How does that happen? Like, it's just
don't know,
got to be
man.
one dude's job before the game to be like, hey, are these matched up? Here, hit play. Okay. No, they're not matched up. Like, I mean, it's not that hard to figure out.
I couldn't tell you, bro. Also, the North Florida Austin Peay game. I don't know if you were listening to the audio. It was like it was a 1960s radio feed. Like crackly, static. Like, we have better audio on this show, all right, than that presentation. But Old Dominion, Texas State, the clock's not matching up. That is my lane violation. Taylor, get us out of here on some positivity. What's your easy layup?
For Purdue. And one of my favorite stats, if not my actual favorite stat in college basketball. So shout out to them for, talking about cementing themselves, if not that they needed to, but as a 1 seed and winning the Big Ten and everything, beating Illinois on the road. But, them winning their this conference title in the Big Ten extends their conference title streak or leading number to 26, which is the most Big Ten titles now by a couple. And so this is just my yearly reminder that Purdue has the most conference titles of any team in the Big Ten. I just want to always remind that to people. I know we've got several Purdue boys that listen to this, and I know that they're always very appreciative. Boiler up to all of those guys, but it's just such a funny stat because they're reverse UConn, and so just because I shouted out UConn in my easy layup last time. UConn hasn't won a conference title in 25 years. Purdue only been winning conference titles, not shit else, but that's all they've been winning is conference titles. So it is impressive, though, to win that many conference titles, especially in what is generally considered one of the, if not the best college basketball conference each. They're probably the best college basketball conference every 4th year, I would say, maybe. Not quite as good as the Big 12 has been recently, and then not this year, but the ACC's in there sometimes too. But yeah, to have the most conference titles of any team in the Big Ten and to extend that by their lead by even more now is certainly worth my support.
I love when you bring that up because it does take me by surprise every single time you do. Watch, by the way, the Duke or Carolina is going to go to the Final Four, and ACC fans are going to be like, "Oh, you said our conference stinks." It's like, we said the whole conference stinks. That excludes Duke and Carolina
specifically. Yeah, right.
My easy layup, Taylor. You mentioned them briefly just a few moments ago. Detroit Mercy. All right, I'm getting out of here on some positivity, and there is a pun here because Mercy has been taken upon Detroit. They're done. Season's over. All right. They lost to Milwaukee. The 1-win season is a wrap. And I'm being pretty dang serious when I say I'm happy for those kids that they don't have to show up to practice and they don't have to show up to games just to lose every single game. And I'm not in their shoes. Maybe they had a wonderful experience. I don't know. But I'm so glad it's over for them. They don't have to play and subject themselves to any more jokes like this one that I'm sure people will construe as a joke, but I'm being 100% serious. Like, it's over. Enjoy the off season. You deserve it. It's been a hellacious year. We're done. By the way, Detroit Mercy, I think, was leading at halftime, or at least tied with Milwaukee at halftime. And then Milwaukee ended up winning by 4. But Detroit Mercy, just clear the cobwebs, man. Take a few, go on vacation, do something, wash this away. My easy layup is that it's over. It's done with. Let's go ahead, get on out of here, Taylor. Great episode. Conference tournaments roll on. End of the regular season is here, and we will catch you next time here on Theater and College Hoops.